Around 30 days ago, I had an insane idea. Could I pull off a whole clothing drop in just 30 days at 18 years old? This was obviously quite ambitious, but I had no idea what it really meant. How much work would it take? And could I actually finish it in 30 days? Let's see. Viewing this, a question might come to you.
But who the hell is this kid?
Well, I'm Lewix, a wealthy ambitious artist from the Netherlands having mastered several different styles at the age of 18, like realism and inking. So creating a wild and captivating clothing drop seemed right up my alley. And I like money. With the introductions out of the way, the very first thing I needed to do was come up with a theme. Luckily for me, there was something right around the corner. Spooky season, more commonly known as Halloween. And with that theme, here are the ideas for the designs. I'm going to create 4 designs that will each go up in scariness, ending off with an illustration that will send shivers down your spine. On top of that, each illustration will also use a different tool and art style to spice things up a bit. Sadly enough though, I can't immediately jump into drawing, because the first thing I needed was a place to purchase the illustrations. Which brings me to my first hurdle. I know this isn't the most exciting stuff, so I will keep it nice and brief. For the drops page we simply need 2 pages. One page to collect email subscribers that are interested in the drop, and another one to showcase all the products once it launches. The email collection page was definitely the most important part, because that is what people will see if they want to be notified on when the collection goes live. And to optimize the amount of people that actually subscribe, I had to do a few things. The first thing that you should see is the title to confirm that you are in fact on the correct page, and then immediately under that, the email collection section. The rest of the page you can use for pretty much anything you want. I just promoted the rest of my store and showed off the drawing process. Do make sure it aligns with the theme of your drop. It just looks way nicer. One thing you should never forget though is the FAQ. I didn't have this for the longest time, and it might just be the 3rd most important section. People who are not completely sure on subscribing can go here to have all their worries laid to rest, and will thus optimize the amount of people that subscribe. Also, these little guys that I put in the middle, love them. Now that the boring stuff is out of the way, we can work on... For the first design, I decided to have a fun little, not scary Halloween themed design, and I had the perfect thing in mind. Dumbass pumpkins. This was a trend that was going around in 2024 TikTok around the time of Halloween. It was just people carving these silly little pumpkins with the most absurd faces on them. This was just the most perfect thing for the first illustration. Quite cute, but still relevant to the Halloween theme. Perfect for what I had in mind. I decided to create the drawing using watercolors, but at the time of painting this, I was pretty bad with watercolors. It was also surprisingly difficult to paint in the lighting from within the pumpkin. To explain why this is difficult, you can actually do this little experiment. Hold your hand up and cover a light source with it, like a lamp. Then look at your hand. You see that? That's subsurface light scattering. In organic matter, light goes inside and scatters around, which is what happens with the pumpkin. So taking that into account, I made the thinnest parts of the pumpkin glow more. It added this creepy inner lighting effect to the painting. In the end, I think this painting turned out absolutely awesome. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I present to you a dumbass pumpkin. This was by far my favorite design to make, and pushed me way further with more details and more motion. I needed to make this illustration more scary than the pumpkin, but not too scary. I needed to find the middle ground between fun and scary, a more cool design, and oh did I succeed. Surprisingly enough, the idea for the illustration wasn't completely mine, but was actually suggested by one of you guys. That's right, over on my TikTok page, Pyro Pero suggested that I should draw a Lich Knight riding a skeleton horse. You should follow me on TikTok by the way, if you want to be next. An absolutely awesome suggestion, and it snowballed into a piece I am really proud of. Definitely one of my best inks ever. Oh yeah, I decided to use inks for this drawing. That means Indian ink and brushes, and also fine liners. I just knew whilst I was drawing this illustration it would look so cool on a clothing item or as a poster. And it would look awesome in the store. LewixArt in the description. Although it turned out amazing, it was definitely difficult to get there. The pose was quite difficult to get right because of the movement that I wanted in the drawing. I also had to learn the anatomy of a horse to create the skeleton, which was an absolute doozy. Apart from that though, the drawing actually played into my strengths, because, well, I might have had an obsession with knights back in the day. I would just sit in class and draw knights, and the teachers would get absolutely furious at me. Worth it though, because this drawing turned out phenomenally. I present you the Lich Knight.
I'm flying high, but I've got a feeling I'm falling for nobody else.
Some people fear heights, some fear the dark, but nearly everyone fears what's creeping in the corner of your room. This design had to be a lot more scary than the last, and to acquire this scariness, I decided to go into a more phobia direction. What is something that everyone is scared of except for Coyote Peterson for some reason? Spiders. Just a normal spider would have already been quite cool. I have seen it before in other people's stores, but it was overdone and boring by now. So I decided to give my own spin to it. I would keep to the original idea of a spider, more specifically the Black Widow, and then combine it with a skull, with the mark of the Black Widow embedded on its forehead. It might just surprise you, but I also made this design during class. I am sensing a pattern. I made this design during physics and was very proud of it. Now a year later or so, and with some more experience, I have spotted a few mistakes. The legs here are coming out of the skull instead of the spider base, and the head of the spider doesn't really look like a spider. With more skills now than I had back then, I knew I could do an even better job. I also knew that I could make an awesome design because realism is definitely a strong suit of mine. Even back when I was 13 to 14 years old, I was drawing realistic characters like the Joker from The Dark Knight or my cock. Yeah, what were you thinking, huh? Yeah, you freaking weirdos. So yeah, I was quite confident that I could make a masterpiece. And after over 30 hours of shading, erasing, and refining, I finished it. I present to you the 8-eyed skull. Honestly, this drawing almost broke me. Somehow I needed to create something that is truly horrifying. Something that really unsettles, frightens, and terrorizes someone. Let me tell you, it's not the easiest thing to do. Truly horrifying is so incredibly difficult to attain in art, because fears differentiate between people. What terrorizes one does not another. To truly create something horrifying, I decided to take a more scientific approach, with one question in mind. What terrifies someone? The part of the brain that causes someone to experience fear is the amygdala. It sits right here and is a very primal and crucial survival mechanism for humans. It prevents you from seeing a wolf in the wild and deciding that it's a cute little puppy. It also does some other stuff that I'm too dumb to understand. To know what triggers fear, we just need to know what triggers the amygdala. From what I could find, there are several different ways to trigger the amygdala. 2 of them I sadly enough couldn't implement because it was a bit more abstract, but the other 2 I could. And they are sensory cues that signal a threat and learned associations. To explain these 2, the first one, sensory cues, is utilizing your senses to possibly detect danger. Like when you hear a noise behind you in the woods or see a shadowy figure in the corner of your eye. Learned associations is a bit less primal and is a fear based on what we have been taught and the experiences that we have had. Can't really do past experiences, but I can give the viewer a visual story whilst viewing the artwork, to still instill this fear in them. So, with this newly acquired knowledge, I jumped into Clip Studio Paint and worked out these ideas. A really important part of this drawing was the immersion in the drawing. By putting you in the perspective of the soldier that is fighting off this creature, you are immediately placed in his shoes, terrified and disgusted at what happened to your friend who is dead on the ground with his face carved out, trying to fend yourself from this creature. To give the night vision immersion effect, I put a bunch of gradient maps over the art, and on top of that, putting a bit of an overlay on top of the drawing, just like what you see in most of the soldiers' POVs. Blood splattered everywhere, fighting for your life and scared to death. The illustration was done. I present you Green Prey. Having made the designs, I had to figure out how to get people to see them, which opened up a whole new challenge. Now, I'm going to be honest, this isn't really my strong suit, especially considering this will be my first time actually trying to promote a drop. But I did have a little plan, and this video is actually a part of that plan. I needed to promote my drop on social media. Here on YouTube, I am not exactly big yet. At the time of recording this, I have 760 or so subscribers. Subscribe, by the way, it really helps out. On Insta, I'm also quite small, with around 1,000. But on TikTok, it's a whole different story. On there, I have 350,000 followers. So hopefully I'll be able to do well on there, well enough to sell this drop out. I now only needed to create the content. How I was going to create the promotional material was actually kinda smart. I would cut this video's drawing segments up into different parts and then cut them down to a minute. I know, I'm so smart. I will post all of these across all social media platforms: TikTok, Instagram and YouTube Shorts, with YouTube Shorts having a link to this video. Again, I'm so smart. I've also ordered a few of my favorite products to make some promotional content with. that will hopefully blow up. I was going to base it off of some standard advertisements for other clothing brands that organically integrate in your feed. I would show you the ads, but I won't get the products until the 30th of September. Now, if you would like to purchase one of my designs, you will be able to purchase them on the 1st of October. Or by subscribing to the email list, you will get 1 day early access and a 10% discount on all products. There are only 50 products of each design available, so if you're too late, you're out. You might be one of the few. If you want to buy, click the link in the description, or you can go to LewixArt.com. If you did buy something, I will, no joke, love you forever. Again, link in the description or go to LewixArt.com. Thank you for watching the video all the way through. I have to be a bit quiet because my mom's sleeping, so I can't be too loud. It always goes a long way if you watch all the way through. So thank you very much. And thank you even more if you bought something. It really goes a long way. This video took so long. Just the designs alone must have taken like 100 hours or something. Comment your favorite design, by the way. I would love to see your opinions. Now, if you'd like to see another video of mine, you can click right here. Stay creative.